Hi, my name's Jamie Ferguson and I'm the lead battle designer for Total War, and you are watching Eurogamer.
Varus. Oh! Quintus Varus, give me back my legions!
Hey all, it's Ian from Eurogamer, back again. Now, the tagline for Total War Rome 2 is, how far will you go for Rome? Well, I went about 70 miles to watch a demo of the Teutoburg Forest campaign level that's being showcased in this trailer. Sure, 70 miles isn't that long if you're on a train, but imagine if I'd have walked it. That's a long way to go for Rome, man.
My loyalty is to my people!
Here's Jamie Ferguson, the lead battle designer on Total War Rome 2, to tell us exactly why he thought this battle would be a good thing to demo.
The battle you saw today was the Battle of Teutoburg Forest, and it was an ambush battle. In this battle, 3 legions of Roman soldiers were completely annihilated by the German commander Arminius and his confederation of German tribes. And the whole point of it is that what we're actually doing is showing how ambush mechanics can work, not just necessarily in a historical battle situation, but also in a campaign battle situation. That's based off things that you do in the campaign map and how you position your armies, and the result of that is you end up in a situation where you can actually have your army completely caught off guard, and then you have to try and fight against an enemy that ambushes you. And also some of the things that this shows is also things like, for example, line of sight and how that works in terms of you know being obscured by the hills and also by trees and so on. Obviously, line of sight allows you to do all sorts of things. One of the things you can do there is you can place your archer troops in positions that maybe means that although they're very close to the enemy can't see them because of the obscured terrain. And that allows for all sorts of interesting tactics in terms of flanking the enemy, attacking them from behind where they're not aware of your presence. It also allows you to do things like, for example, creating choke points by using things like stakes or, for example, sharp stones, where you actually embed sharp stones in the ground, and that makes cavalry far less useful than they would be normally.
Will the focus on rock, paper, scissor mechanics that was heavily enforced in Shogun 2 take a step back to the more traditional mechanics seen in past games?
Well, we have always had a stone, paper, scissors. I think it was maybe more obvious in Shogun because the numbers of units were actually limited to one kind of cultural type, and as a result those things became far more obvious. I think it's safe to say, though, that with the variety of different factions that you have within the ancient warfare milieu, you end up with a situation where those stone, paper, scissors become more spread out across different factions. So, for example, your Romans are much more melee-based in warfare, whereas, for example, your Eastern factions may be much more based around kind of fast-moving troops, archers and cavalry. And all of those things actually have a stone, paper, scissors within themselves. They may not necessarily be immediately obvious within a single culture. So, for example, if Romans are fighting Romans, then it becomes much more of a kind of grinding match where two sides are just basically using brute force to try and destroy each other. But then, for example, if you're fighting against a Hellenic army and they've got their spears and their pikes and so on, then there's a very different approach to combat compared to the Romans, for example. And that is where we put that stone, paper, scissors. So it's always there. There's always a counter to something. That's the reason why there are lots of different types of unit types. You don't just have one thing and that's the thing that wins. It's a combination of all of those elements that allows you victory.
Can you explain to us how the new naval to land battles work?
Basically, something we haven't done previously is we're allowing somebody to bring their navy along to a land battle, as long as it's next to the coast, obviously, and then by doing that, those men can either dismount from their ships and get involved in the combat, or they can maybe defend against another enemy navy that might also turn up at the same time. Again, also, for example, with siege battles, what we're doing there is we're allowing the player to actually begin the siege from the sea and begin attacking the enemy from that position, so that they're not just limited to a land assault. Also, for example, if somebody wants to actually move their troops very quickly and do something that gets them around behind enemy lines, so that maybe the frontier, maybe kind of several provinces in the east, you can actually move all the way to the west via the Mediterranean and actually, try and attack them in their soft underbelly.
Can you give us any indication on how many individual entities we can have on screen at once?
Don't think we can really give any solid numbers right now, but we always look to try and push the top end for those people who have got high-end machines, but at the same time we allow that scalability that, for example, we're hoping that we can actually keep the performance, so that, for example, somebody who was able to play Shogun 2 should be able to play Rome 2 as well.
Will the unit tree be greatly improved and have higher diversity over Shogun 2's units?
There's certainly a hell of a lot more units than we had previously. I think the last count was approximately 700 units. Whether that ends up being the final number, again, it depends on playability and quality and whether they actually make their way into the game as a viable thing. But that is also a function of the numbers of factions that we have. So the point of that is that not every not every faction has a huge number of units. It's a case that because there are many more factions there were, for example, in Shogun 2, where we, again, as I described before, there was a single culture. In the ancient world, we're obviously dealing with something where there's 5, 6, 7, 8, or maybe more cultures.
Will environmental damage be a factor in Rome 2, such as heavy winds pushing ships into rocks?
We're looking at what we can actually include in that. I wouldn't think we're going to be doing any realistic wind effects on ships. We have tried that in the past and it becomes rather complicated for most people. It's very hard to read the signs as to why, for example, that ship that you weren't looking at 10 minutes ago has suddenly run aground and started sinking. So.
Steady! Steady!
Thanks for the info, Jamie. Now finally, the most important question: how far would you go for Rome?
All the way.
For someone like me who doesn't really play these types of games, I have to say that Rome 2 is looking fantastic. The Teutoburg Forest level is all about Rome getting shafted by barbarians, and the fact that this fight is an unwinnable struggle to escape from a deadly ambush makes the gameplay seem far more exciting and attractive to me than I expected it to. If you'd like to find out more about Total War Rome 2, why not check out our bonus interview with Dominic Starr, a campaign designer on Rome 2, and as always, please do subscribe to Eurogamer by clicking on that there annotation, and tell your friends to do it as well. It's for the good of Rome, people!